Welcome to my reflection video for Assessment 1 Part D. So, an introduction. Today we are focusing on Year 1. The content descriptor which we're discussing is recognise and classify familiar two-dimensional shapes and three-dimensional objects using obvious features. So the learning intention today is a good mathematician can recognise shapes around them and use two-dimensional shapes to create patterns. Our success criteria, I can now recognise two-dimensional shapes in the patterns that make up the community. I can now use words such as sides, edges and corners to describe two-dimensional shapes. I can now recreate the patterns we saw on our community walk using concrete materials. So a little bit of insight into the actual lesson. For the warm-up activity, the kids will do a little scavenger hunt. So the teacher will display a shape up the front and the kids have to sort of go around the room and try and find an object that is the same shape as the example. Then we're going to recognise shapes that make up a pattern in the community. So we're going to do a little bit of explicit teaching using an example image that the teacher's taken to discuss what shapes make up the pattern and then the properties of that shape. Then the kids will use the images, their own images that they took during the community walk to recreate one of the patterns that they photographed using concrete materials in the classroom. After they've recreated the pattern, they have to discuss the properties of those shapes. So how many sides does it have? How many corners does it have? Are the other lines, the edges the same length, that sort of thing. And then they actually get to create their own pattern using concrete materials after they've recreated their image. So the high impact strategy that I'm focusing on today is questioning. So questioning is one of the high impact teaching strategies. Questioning can be used by the teacher to prompt students' thinking and guide discussion. Questioning also helps with giving students feedback and supporting assessment. So the teacher can ask questions to get the kids thinking. A teacher might, if a discussion goes off track, a teacher can ask a question to bring the discussion back to where the teacher wanted it to go. Questioning can help give students immediate feedback and it supports assessment going both ways. So the teacher can assess if their instruction is clear enough, yes or no, but it can also be the teachers able to see what the students know, what their knowledge or skills are. So academic literature. So questioning gives feedback immediately to both the teacher and the student. The teacher will get an understanding of what the student currently knows and that gives opportunity for the teacher to ask guiding questions to the students to give the students feedback. So a quote from Callingham is successful teaching and learning is about dialogue and feedback. So the discussion between students, the discussion between teacher and student, and feedback as well. Bybee discusses how important during the explore phase it is for teachers to provide the opportunity for students to have a concrete hands-on activity where students are able to show what they already know and answer questions that might have arose during the engage phase. So whilst they're engaging in the learning, that might actually raise some questions for the students. So during the explore phase, it's about the students taking leadership of their learning, using a concrete hands-on activity. They might try to answer the questions that have come up for them. They might develop their understanding a little bit better, but the teacher should actually step back and facilitate the learning in the explore phase of the 5E model. So the teacher will assist where required, but mostly step back and allow the students to explore. Questioning can be used to probe deeper thinking in students. It's also a good way of accessing the effectiveness of the teacher instruction and make the necessary changes, as discussed by Westwood. As I said before, the teacher can actually ask questions of the students to get them thinking a little bit deeper. But also in saying that, the teacher can ask questions of the students to see, are they understanding my instruction? Do I need to do an example? And the teacher can actually make those changes on the fly as required. So in the future, more high impact strategies could have been implemented in the lesson. The lesson probably could have been done collaboratively to give the students an opportunity to discuss their thinking and learning with their peers. Collaborative open-ended tasks allow growth in not only the mathematics skills, but also negotiation, discussion, and argumentative skills, which was discussed by Chan and Clark. So in the future, you could definitely incorporate this as a collaborative group task. Also in the future, questioning could have been used at the end of the lesson in reflection to actually check off whether the students have met the learning intention and success criteria. So you could say, Timmy, so one of our success criteria today was I can now recognize two-dimensional shapes in the patterns that make up the community. Timmy, do you think that you can recognize the 2D shapes that make up patterns in our community? And they'll be able to say yes or no, thumbs up, thumbs down, a green light, red light sort of system, just to check off that they can actually do that. So, how's our learning intention being met? Yes or no? The other thing that I would change in the future is actually asking some more open-ended questions rather than the closed questions used at the beginning of the lesson to gauge the prior knowledge of the students. So just, asking a few more open-ended questions to give them a little bit of freedom.